We are going to take a look at 3 different builds that I've been working on throughout this week. The Infiltrator Assassin, the Aetherwalker Psyker, and the Eradicator Assassin. We'll start with the Infiltrator. The Infiltrator is a melee-centric assassin. Using the Death Cult Blade. I have a nice relic one here, but it doesn't matter much for the purposes of this testing. This could also be done with the Assassin Power Sword, but I think the Assassin Power Sword is worse because the AoE jump it gives you isn't very good. Meanwhile, the Death Cult Blade gets Killing Blow, which is insane for single target DPS. You have Phasing Assault for quick mobility, good damage, and a stun if you need it. And you have your go-to AoE ability and your go-to standard single target damage ability. The AoE on this build isn't fantastic. In the offhand, I'm currently using a plasma gun. Eventually, if you get a lot of physical damage, you want to move this up to a grav gun or a bolter, I would imagine. This is purely there for the Lehman Rust tanks and other nasty armor targets, though it's mostly just Lehman Rust tanks that are bastards, that are incredibly difficult to deal with as melee. Incredibly annoying, more so than anything else. Perk-wise, we're using Unfettered Maneuvering, 20% more movement speed. Currently I have this set up as 12, 10, 10, 5. I have 2 points in here just for some more damage, but it doesn't really matter at this point. Eventually you want to get Carnophagia for the HP bonus per kill, but I cannot reach that yet. Never mind, I lied. I can reach that. And what we could do... yeah, we'll leave it at this then. There we go, optimization. Nope, never mind. Quickening, bonus to movement speed. It's not the right one, but you know what? I think we'll just go with that instead. That's actually pretty good too. We want to eventually get Carnophagia. I didn't change these in a long time, turns out. And I have these on 5 just to get the first tick. Not super important. It's better than the second tick for accuracy though. Anyway, then we have Fluid Attack Strategy, which is 50% more melee damage whenever you dodge. You get this at level 20. It's insane, which means this build around level 20 is going to perform better than pretty much anything else, I think, because 50% more damage after you dodge is nuts. So that's what we're working with for now. Skills-wise, I've gone into close combat initially for Bloodthirst. 50 HP on kill is incredibly important. HP on kill is incredibly important for all of these. And this build has the easiest way to get a bunch with Bloodthirst. This is Assassin only. Then I think I went into movement after that. Got Evasive Bionics. You get some baseline movement speed. Get some out-of-combat movement speed. It's not super important, but it's nice to have for map clearing. And you get 25% damage reduction. 5%, but it stacks every time. Got some hit points, some basic increases here, which are nice to have. Eventually you want to get some more defenses, defensive stands and runic wards, because you're using, crucially for this, void shields for all of these builds. Void shields are going to be crucial. Then currently moving into physical attack. But for now, nothing significant out of this tree. So, let's give this one a shot. What we're going to do is we're going to do Uther's Tarot, we're going to do Pestilence. These are all Nurgle infestations. Nurgle is the easiest type of enemy in general, especially for these builds. So it's going to be a little bit skewed because this Psyker is going to be better against armored than this one, for instance. So in armored maps that one would be slightly better, but this is the only one where you can consistently get the same map type. So that should be good for comparison. We'll use the Hourglass and Unending Duty because I don't plan on dying. Deathless Stream, after all. And the Hourglass gives us a 10-minute cooldown, 10-minute timer on maps, which should be more than enough. We'll just do normal. We could go all the way up to... we could do Impossible with this build for sure. It's Nurgle, but for the sake of quickly comparing these things, I'm not going to bother with that right now. It just takes a lot longer. Let's see how well this does. So currently, I am wearing a cloak armor, stealth field.
Precious blood.
Ideally, I would have switched this out for a distortion field. Distortion field is amazing against bosses and would speed this run up by, I want to say, about 30 seconds to a minute, potentially. Depending on how many of these bosses we're gonna get.
You are gone.
Oh, killing Blowmust there. The one thing that's really nice, of course, about the melee builds is you're gonna get a mobility ability.
Recoil unclean.
Which is gonna help you skip a lot. What I could do, because this is a Nurgle festering map, is I could technically stealth up and just run to the pips, but for the sake of science. We're not going to do that. Unfortunately, there's no way to get a purge missions. I guess that would be the best direct comparison. But we're going to try and kill most things. Not going to fuss about the little things. So, like here, I managed to quickly stealth, so I did get the damage bonus. But it's only a 3-second damage bonus if you get discovered. Whereas it's a 6-second if you don't get discovered while you attack. And surprise gives you 30% damage and 5% crit, something along those lines, which is a lot. Whereas if you use distortion field, you get a good 10 seconds of that. Plus anything in there won't be able to hit you.
Or embrace terminal lung rot. Mission progress updated.
No teleporter here. Tends to be teleporters around these.
Kill the heretic.
So I'm not gonna fuss about the little ones. Oh, this one here would especially be really good to have a distortion field. And because we're running around so much, it's not very easy to use the actual stealth element.
Target eliminated.
So I do think this is the most straightforward build they could do with the assassin, out of the builds that I want to test.
Now you are gone.
Makes it slightly less interesting to me, because I like making 1P builds. That said, it is really effective. And a lot of fun, because you're super mobile. Like, I could ignore these entirely if I wanted to, because they're not going to catch up.
Kill the heretic.
The main downside for this really is a lack of really good AoE clear. The cone is very limited, as you can see. Going the right way, right? Yes. Kill these for good measure.
Die, heretic.
And compared to the Assassin Blade, you have less mobility. Because the Assassin Blade gets the extra vault. So if you want to be a space ninja, I completely understand that you'd rather play with the Assassin Blade, but I do think the damage is worse. You really miss out on one of the best single target damage abilities in the game. The Killing Blow. This one. And the damage on the leap is completely irrelevant for Assassin Blade. Like, it's very low poison damage. Whereas the poison damage on this cone attack is actually quite good. Okay, gotta be a little bit careful here. Let's get these void shields. Void shields also reset your suppression, so as long as you're going into semi-melee, it's so important. A lot of specials.
You are guilty. Off with you.
The nice thing about the cone here, it also triggers death marks. At this chest. A relic.
Such mistakes deserve immediate retribution.
And that is the melee run, which I think is probably going to be one of the more efficient ones. That said, this build really peaks at 20 compared to the other ones. Because of that 50% damage increase whenever you dodge roll, which is nuts. Oh, nice. Death Cult Blade. Each killing blow heals an amount equal to the damage dealt. Now that is finally a really good relic. So we're gonna quickly equip this. That is nuts. I guess the game wants me to play this one more. So for the sake of mixing things up, let's do the Psyker before we go to the other assassin build. This Psyker build is semi-melee, because we're using the Aether blade, which has unrivaled mobility, except that you cannot use this on terrain, so it actually has less mobility. I lied, sorry. It uses the Inferno pistol, which is a lot of single target fire damage, heat damage. We're using the Void Shield as well, and we're using the Warpound armor for an ability slot. This is all fine. Perks-wise, we're using Psychic Boon. Powers last twice as long on the target, which you'll see in a moment why. Warp Heat Dissipation reduces Warp Heat by 1, because we're going to set things on fire, and they are going to set us on fire in return. So we're using Fiery Form, which is probably my favorite ability from the Psyker, even though it's not the most inspiring one. Creates a giant circle of fire around you, which is lovely, and it gives you a 50% damage to heat attacks, which is why we're using the Inferno pistol. And currently I have it boosted for another 10% damage, which is a skill tree thing. I also have skill duration by 50%, so this means this is now going to last for 30 seconds. So it's going to last slightly longer than the cooldown allows because of that perk. And then secondly, we're using Firestorm in our armor. This is an immensely good AoE ability, the best AoE ability for Psyker, I want to say. The best AoE ability for Psyker. Depends a bit on your build, of course. Which does immense AoE damage, all heat damage, and plays a dot on them as well. It, however, costs a lot of heat, so I have reduced skill cooldown, reduced warp heat, increased area of effect currently inside of it. Skill effectiveness would be more damage, we don't need that currently anyway. Then skill tree build-wise, we went into heat because we like fire with this build. Got everything that's important. You might want to get Witchfire Symbiotics eventually as well, you probably do, which is another 4% damage increase, which is quite a lot for just one pip. But right now I went into some other stuff. I got Evasive Bionics on this guy as well. I got healing whenever you get Warp Heat. So the main problem with this build, currently at level 21, he dies. He dies a lot. So I want to go into hit points and defense pretty quickly. I maybe should have done that already, instead of going for, say, Psychic Mastery damage boost. This one's going to be risky. So there's almost certainly going to be a point where I have to back off a lot and play a typical caster with this build, because again, he is very squishy. But he does play nicely different. And he ignores armor. The damage I think is the highest on this guy, from all the builds that I have in store. But, of course you can't move around like this. Now we're gonna be reapplying Fiery Form every single time we can. Well, I should have waited a few seconds here, but
Die,
get the idea.
heretic. Witness my power.
Witness my power. There's a special.
Now you are gone.
They should absolutely melt, although I was hitting the other guy.
Overheat.
Except that we also have heat management with our other heat abilities. Heat, heat, heat. And unfortunately, as a Psyker, there's not a crazy good way to manage that.
Scorched earth
But I do
protocol,
really like this
a
build.
rudimentary but effective solution.
The camera moving would mess me up so hard. Yeah, the camera is definitely something to get used to in this game. It's very different from most action RPGs in terms of angle. And this game really likes throwing traps at you, so sometimes you want to be checking if there aren't any skulls. Like I cleared one earlier. Come on, pick it up.
Die,
Oh,
heretic.
it's already full. Don't forget that Fiery Form.
Kill the heretic.
Kill the heretic. Beware the alien. exact same map layout. There are a few variants. This is nice for science. Look at them burn. You can't dodge this stuff as a Psyker. Luckily our warp heat has been going quite well. Because of course as a Psyker you get nasty, nasty stuff the moment you go into red.
Scorched Earth Protocol. A rudimentary but effective solution.
Scorched Earth indeed. Scorched pustules. There's a little... got a little sneaky one. I'll walk through it too, because... pathing. It's rough in this game. Nothing we can't handle though. It's really bad when it summons a bunch of turrets. Turrets are the anathema for all these builds. I think Fiery Form, the main satisfactory thing about it, it just ignores armor and such, so having that AoE circle just burn away surprisingly makes this build feel very fluid, despite that you have no actual movement during combat like with the assassin. There we go.
Miscalculated our response time, Inquisitor. Such mistakes deserve
See if we can get some
retribution.
hot relics with this one too. Pyrokinetic staff. So, now we have the Eradicator Assassin. We're gonna do a few versions of this. The first one is gonna be double shotguns. The second one is gonna be quad bolt pistols. And the third one is double needler sniper rifles. Because I'm not quite sure which one is better yet. There are a few other options with this. You could do grav pistols as well. But from what I've tested so far, they're straight up worse than bolt pistols. In most cases. You could do Melta-gun, you could do Inferno pistol, however, then you do have to go heat instead of physical, which we currently are on. The idea here is that this game has weapon swapping, if you didn't know. It's just that it's really clunky unless you specifically have cooldown reduction. The only way to get 100% cooldown reduction is with Tactical Mastery. Eradicator starts with this. But everyone can unlock it by completing a mission with 30% melee and 30% range damage done, which is funny because combining ranged and melee, it's terrible. Nevertheless, you could get this on anyone else, but Assassin uniquely gets Quick Draw, which further reduces 50%. So now you have 100% cooldown reduction. It also means you are reloading your ammo and heat. It doesn't mention heat, but it does work for heat. So you never have to worry about that. Also using a fettered maneuvering like we did before. And this is our current setup for this, not super important at the moment. So shotguns run out of ammo really fast. So with the quick swap, that doesn't matter. Or it shouldn't matter that much. It's kind of clunky, unfortunately. If you get caught in the reload animation, you can't really swap. Don't know, I hope they change that eventually. And all of these attacks are cone attacks. They do get benefit from increased area of effect damage, but they don't get increased area of effect, which is rather awkward. So we haven't moved into area of effects, because all of this would be worthless. This one also does not work, the cone skill increase. That said, the damage should be quite good, especially in the Nurgle ones. It is unfortunate during the big open maps, because the shotgun has no mobility, and you have limited range, so in the open maps you probably want to be swapping. With this build currently, I can swap between all of these interchangeably without issue. The Needler Sniper Rifle is amazing for the battlefield maps, whereas the shotguns are horrible. But for the sake of comparison, we'll keep trying with the Nurgle map specifically. For now, we'll start with shotguns. We went into range combat to get quick draw. We could get hit and run. If you do Needler Rifle, that one would actually be useful, With shotguns, it isn't, though. We went everything into physical except these two, because they are irrelevant. I didn't get any movement yet. Not quite certain if I want to go into this, because it's only 10% out of combat. You don't have any movement skills for evasive bionics. Do want to get hit points in this desperately. Want to get these two as well, because they're amazing. And criticals. Criticals, very important. You want to get everything in here. Unfortunately, with the way they designed it, you have to get a few useless pips like this one. But that's just a flaw within the game. So, let's try the shotguns. See if it's the same map again. Yes, it is. Excellent. This is one of the more... This is by far the funkiest build I've made so far, I think. The shotgun specifically. I do really like using it.
Death is a journey.
Just unfortunate it is so incredibly terrible in the open maps. Because you get caught out before you can get into range, especially against all the last gun renegade guardsmen. Traitors to the realm.
Target eliminated.
But you use all of these abilities, and eventually you want to move into the perfectly calculated strikes, I think it's called. Where you increase your cooldowns by 3 seconds. You can increase the cooldowns of skills with 3 seconds by 3 seconds. Want to hit this? Like, the range is very finicky. And then you deal another 50% extra damage. Currently I can't do that because I don't have a perk slot for it. In this one, I also have stealth. The clones, rather. Not stealth. It's awkward stealth. This is stealth. The clones don't do any damage. But they do suppression damage. And they do all the effects. So with the Needler sniper rifle, they do the toxin debuff. And with the shotgun... Oh, there's a shrine here. Might as well. And with the shotgun, they do the knockdown and slows, which we currently have on crits. Not convinced it's better yet than Distortion Field. Because Distortion Field is simply amazing. But I will say, with shotguns, you are dodging a lot. Far more so than with the melee build. Or any other build. And Distortion Field is really expensive. In terms of adrenaline.
Purgation protocol completed.
You can also see me dodging all the time here, just for mobility.
Death is a journey.
But this build absolutely shines on this type of map. I thought I'd move through another trap.
Cleansing shots fired.
But as you can see, it requires a lot of repositioning.
Eradicated.
And you kind of gotta pay really close attention to your ammo. You don't ever want your character to automatically reload. I really wish there was a gameplay option where you could just turn it off. Because it would dramatically help this build feel more responsive. We killed this every time, I think.
Eradicated.
And it's a lot of trying to run ahead. So you can turn around and shoot them in the face with this build as well. Which is delightful.
I found you guilty of heresy.
Come on. So they are manually reloaded, which is a mistake.
Scorched Earth protocol. A rudimentary but effective solution.
Oh, there's a teleporter here. That's gonna lead to a secret room. I'm not gonna do that. Because that is entirely going to mess up this comparison. There's a boss in there with some extra loot. Mini boss.
Pain is salvation.
Pain is salvation.
Pain is salvation.
Like, this looks lovely, doesn't it? Crossfire. I wish there was a flanking bonus in this game. That's one thing I really wish this ability gave, the hololithic armor. It's the only one that doesn't give surprise. Which means I think in endgame it's going to be really hard to actually use this. Because you're missing out on 30% damage and a bunch of crit.
Cleansing shots
Aerial
fired.
dispersion of demonic pathogen detected. Steer clear of the miasma or embrace terminal lung rot.
Built this for good measure.
Eradicating the infestation, we lowered the chance of a
Target
major outbreak,
eliminated.
and we collected valuable data.
But that was nice and smooth.
Omnisire be praised.
But this is absolutely the type of map shotguns shine on. So I think, because they do so poorly against battlefields, it might be intriguing to combine them both with the needler. Use a needler and a shotgun. In here. But what we're gonna do for now is try double needler. And then bolt gun is a different option. I'm not gonna equip any of this yet because don't want to mess with things. So let's do double needler on the same map. This one works really well in battlefields. Like assassination missions on a battlefield. Easy. So we had 5 minutes 20 with the shotguns. This should be slower. It's a different map, so that's unfortunate. Because this one shines against elites specifically. And the AoE...
Guilty.
The reason I'm doing double needler is because needlers have pretty good AoE still. As far as snipers go anyway.
Gas trap. Oh, not a boring day at all.
Ooh.
Finally. Oh, fresh air. Target eliminated.
And I'm currently also using the hololithic armor on this. Because they do apply the toxins. But clearing these elites, as you can see, easy. Problem is when you get into big AoE scenarios. So I do think this shotgun and the needler would complement each other really well. But I'm not sure if it's good enough. I'll have to try that some more as well. Damn, it's a different map. Turns out you cannot headshot Nurgle's pustules.
With you.
Purgation protocol completed.
That is the wrong way. This poison is quite good, so it should kill them. Not that guy though. He's a tough one. Thanks, terrain. One weakness. Immovable objects. Let's see. Let's quickly spam snipes. Okay, that's faster.
Scorched Earth protocol, a rudimentary but effective solution.
I wish there were needler pistols. Isn't that the Avisor assassin order? Needler bolt pistols. That makes so much sense in this game. Get on it, Neocore.
Target in sight.
Okay, I'm gonna grab this healing because I don't suddenly want to choke at the end.
Recoil unclean. Kiss of death.
The Plague Lord miscalculated our response time, Inquisitor. Such mistakes deserve immediate retribution.
Let's see. This was a different map layout. And obviously there's variants in mob spawns, and in this case, scary doors trying to choke us. But the speed was super fast. 418. And we got a relic arc blade. Arc blades are good. 418. That's really good. So then finally, I need to try out a combination between the two, but 418 is impressive. And that's on a worse map, I think. Finally, the bolt guns. The reasoning here is mostly suppressive fire. This is probably the highest... Well, it's not the highest. The snipes are higher single target damage, but it's really close to being one of the highest single target damage abilities, as well as area of effect. Just that it has a long cooldown. Let's try the double bolt guns. Very different map again. I think this one can be a lot slower because of the map.
Cleansing shots fired.
Look at that clear on the suppressive fire. That said, against big groups, it's not going to do remotely as good as the shotgun. But it feels so good. Use the crazy bowgun. Oh, I'm gonna wait a second there.
Repent.
And in this case, I don't think there's any point for hololithic armor. Just swap that out.
Recoil unclean.
Gonna be teleporters here though, right? Yeah.
Teleport beacon in range.
Scorched Earth
That's the fastest one yet.
A rudimentary but effective solution.
Oh, hello.
Oh, the Emperor.
So this is obviously how they perform right now at level 20-ish.
Guilty.
Things might change as we get higher. 50 being the max. But I wanted to do this at 20, because now we have every single weapon, every single item unlocked.
Cleansing shots fired.
After this, it's optimization. We're not gonna radically start using different items. If any.
Kiss of death.
The only adjustment I can think of is maybe using things like personal teleporter. get enough defenses. Somehow. Let's say the shotgun. The lack of mobility is really painful for that one. Let's pick this up. Do we do the... Yeah, we should do the other one. Okay. Messing with my mind. Different layouts.
I found you guilty
Typical chaos.
of heresy.
That's Zinch though. I think there's an issue with the bolt gun version where it resets suppressive fire's cooldown regardless of whether or not it is on cooldown. Like if I use this and swap back, it should still be on cooldown. It is, but I think I could trigger it. Yeah. Okay, so I'm trying to avoid doing that because that is clearly not meant to be the case.
Teleport beacon in range.
That is not how it works with the shotgun or the needler. But it seems they need to fix that for a bolt gun. Oh, bye. So currently, this build is slightly better than whenever they're gonna fix that problem. Because you could theoretically just be spamming suppressive fire. I'm trying very hard not to do that.
Death is a journey.
Like, I could use it here, but... it's such a good
I
ability.
found you guilty of heresy.
That's not the main one, right? Oh, these are... the worst. I just want to skip this guy, to be honest.
Cleansing shots fired.
Take forever to kill.
Pain is salvation. Kiss of death.
Come on. One of them dies. They should all die at least.
You are guilty.
Because they blow up. Or should. There we go. Good job, me! I didn't see that effect on the last one. I thought they all went off. Well, that cost us a relic.
Kiss of death.
I really did not... was there an effect there on the last one? Hidden behind all the Nurgle pus? Perhaps? Like I specifically waited for it.
Teleport beacon in range.
This is not even...
Target
this is a completely separate room. Alright, well the time for this one is obviously a lot worse. But the build does work. Really well. It just struggles with the... group AoE. I think more so than the Needler even. Because the cone's very awkward for this. I think this one, if anything, would benefit really well from having a shotgun.
The Plague Lord miscalculated our response to Inquisitor. Such mistakes deserve immediate retribution.
Guess I'll have to try combining one of those. The Needler did the best regardless. So that might just be straight up better. Bolt and shotgun might be really good though. Anyway, for now I think this is... yeah, this was 6 minutes, but... I don't think this was this was by far the longest map. And we got robbed. It would have been an amazing relic too. Like a shotgun that deals triple damage, can you imagine? Purging all those heretics. A beautiful golden shotgun. If only. Okay. We only have 3,000. Well then,